Mark Cuban is recorded for being frank, and he isn't reluctant to educate business people on Shark Tank what he truly thinks about their thought.
Are you serious? Are you really that clueless?
No,
Seriously, are you really that clueless?
Being an accomplished and exceptionally fruitful business visionary himself, he typically includes an entirely smart thought about whether an item will work. Yet, he additionally will know whether somebody's pitch is veritable. In the event that you just go to the show for advert or need to sell a sketchy item, you should be cautious. Else, you may end up like these 9 tricksters who felt Mark Cuban's fierceness on Shark Tank. Manish Sethi.
Yeah, you do.
You're such a con artist.
I'm absolutely not.
In the season 7 finale, Manish Sethi entered the Shark Tank to present Pavlok, a watch-like gadget that allows you to shock yourself in order to embrace and bring an end to unfortunate propensities.
Right. Oh.
Turn it back.
Turn it down.
Ow, wow, how do you turn it off?
I barely feel it.
Despite the fact that he gave a reasonable presentation, the Sharks weren't getting it, with Mark considering it was a trick and Barbara saying that she had discovered his pitch debilitating since Sethi was asking for $500,000 in return for only 3.14% in his company. Kevin wondered how he got the crazy company valuation of almost $16 million. Nonetheless, the problem was the very certainty that Sethi had no confirmation or clinical test information that the product really worked, and simply continued referring to studies done by others that discussed the benefits of behavior therapy. Robert likewise asked why Sethi expected that he would have the discipline to shock himself when he didn't have the control to forestall gnawing his nails.
If I have the discipline to buzz myself, do I not have the discipline to stop?
However, when Sethi attempted to address his inquiry, Mark barked at him by shouting that he had been all hogwash.
have
It's
enough
nonsense,
discipline.
Robert. It's all nonsense across the board.
Kevin was the sole one who communicated interest and made a sensibly liberal proposal for 3.14% equity. He was happy to offer Sethi the $500,000 at a credit at 7.5% interest for 2 years. Amazingly, Sethi refused, saying he would take an offer from any of the Sharks with the exception of Kevin.
I would take an offer from anybody besides Mr. Wonderful.
Manish, you're a get the out of here.
Bill LYON.
Revestor's doing for real estate what the internet's done for car buying and stock trading.
In season 4, Bill LYON's tested out his concept of a web page called Revestor, a real estate search engine of the future. He was attempting asking for $250,000 in return for 10% equity in his organization. LYON's claimed to have created an algorithm that would help people invest in real estate, as it allows you to see a house's value in the future when LYON said customers would pay $99 per month to have access to the website. Mark Cuban outrightly stated he hated the business and was out.
You'll give me a little bit of help with your algorithms.
Right, you're not using an archaic spreadsheet.
I'm gonna pay you $99 a month for access to that.
Right.
I hate that business, I'm out.
The Sharks appeared to be doubtful likewise, and were befuddled when LYON initially said he focused on first-time house buyers before later claiming he focused on both regular first-time purchasers and house flippers. The investors disclosed to him that he was talking from 2 sides of his mouth and had no business idea, which made him appear to be a con artist.
But the presentation you came up with today made you appear like a bit of a con artist.
I'm not
I'm out.
Albert and Richard Amini. When pitching an idea on Shark Tank, you better know precisely what you're discussing and have a few numbers to back everything up. When brothers and doctors Albert and Richard Amini came to the Sharks in season 5, they presented their concept of RoboDoc, an application that connects doctors and patients looking for $50,000 for a 20% stake. In spite of the fact that Mark Cuban disclosed to them their thought wasn't inept in principle, the brothers kept throwing in buzzwords like security, encryption, and social media, without any plan to back any of it up, which eventually led to Mark Cuban telling them that their pitch was the worst he'd ever seen.
Worst presentation ever, I'm out.
Oh, that was mean.
Ever. You guys should be smart enough to know.
Different Sharks were likewise stressed over the risk of RoboDoc and went out individually because of the exceptionally muddled field-tested strategy of the application. The Amini siblings in the end returned home without a deal. Adam Tichauer. One of the things the sharks truly disdain is when individuals endeavor to utilize the show as an announcement for their business. So when Adam Tichauer entered the tank in season 7 and presented his rest-away camp for grown-ups to the financial specialists, it didn't take long until the sharks smelled the rodent. He was posturing for $300,000 for 7.5% value stake in his business. However, the sharks enjoyed the plan of action of the camp-like retreat. None of them were interested about contributing. Mark Cuban said that Adam was a financial advertiser instead of a business person.
You're a party promoter, right? I want you in my corner. Yeah. Well, no, I'm serious. I'm serious here.
At the end of the day, you're a party promoter.
I like.
And Damon went considerably further, considering him a gold digger who wasn't really attempting to discover any speculation, yet rather needed to showcase his camps on television.
You're trying to basically gold dig. Because you're basically saying right now, you don't really need anything from.
Regardless of whether Tichauer was attempting to discover a venture or was truly just on the show for a complimentary ad, it positively helped his business, since extended to 8 distinct urban communities and are highlighted in a few paper and magazine articles. Ryan Naylor. Since appearing on the show in 2012, Ryan Naylor and his ESO watches have basically become the epitome of scams on Shark Tank. Naylor introduced his timepieces that are built infused with negative ions, which he claimed to be working against the positive ions we are bombarded with by electronic devices, and thus bring the wearer's body back to balance by restoring an ideal energy field. He was asking for $35,000 in exchange for 20% of his company, and thus the undeniable fact that he had sold over 110,000 ESO watches within the previous year certainly intrigued Kevin O'Leary. While Lori agreed to put the watches to a test, Mark Cuban immediately bowed out, saying the technology was a joke and he was allergic to scams.
That's for you.
okay, you keep it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mark, are you allergic to positive, negative ion stuff?
No, I'm allergic to scams.
The other sharks became more and more skeptical too, as Naylor didn't have any tests or data backing the technology up, and Damon then accused him of stealing the design of his timepieces from another company. Eventually, Kevin O'Leary said he would consider investing if Naylor admitted that the negative ion technology was a scam, but the entrepreneur wouldn't appear the hay, affirming his belief within the technology and going home without a deal within the top.
If you admit it's a scam, maybe I'll invest. Is it a scam?
I don't believe it is.
Aaron McDaniel. In season 6, Aaron McDaniel, founder and CEO of Tycoon Real Estate, not only failed to get a deal, but also didn't make any friends. McDaniel pitched his real estate crowdfunding service as a way for average people to invest in real estate. But while he was convinced it would change the real estate game forever, he completely failed to convince the sharks that it was a safe model, with Mark Cuban quickly yelling that he hated the idea because it was scammy, and Barbara Cochran calling it spooky. Even Kevin O'Leary, who was actually interested in making a deal, asked McDaniel if he had a criminal record. Cuban could barely hide his aversion throughout the entire pitch, calling even the name a ripoff.
Just think of the name, Tycoon. Tycoon!
Please.
Tycoon, what does
let me
that say to a
finish.
small investor? It's a ripoff name.
While the others found the thought of an online real estate investment with no oversight rather shady, and didn't think McDaniel was someone to be trusted with money, one eventually made an offer to completely rebrand the business with his own name, and put up the asking price of $50,000 in exchange for 50%. Not the 5% McDaniel had been seeking. However, McDaniel flatly refused.
I wouldn't go anywhere higher than 10% of that.
I forgot your name already. I'm out.
Thank you.
Van Gold and Chris Sheldon. After noticing that society features a big issue where people are constantly focused on their phones rather than on each other, Van Gold and Chris Sheldon came up with No Phone, a gadget to satirize people addicted to their phones. The No Phone has no screen, no battery, no apps, and no features within the latest. Although No Phone with the selfie upgrade does accompany a mirror. The two were trying to get $25,000 for 15% in their company, and had already managed to spice up $18,000 from a Kickstarter campaign before pitching their idea on the show. Unfortunately, the sharks didn't a bit like the dumb idea and tagged it useless.
Only one thing I hate more
and people staring at their phones, and that's dumb Pat.
After Mark and Lori had dropped out, Robert told Gold and Sheldon that he was impressed that they managed to sell 3,100 units during a couple months, but worried that that was the whole market, and thus went out also, but not before saying he would feel stupid investing in no phone. And Kevin then blasted Gold and Sheldon's last hopes by calling their idea poo-poo.
The pet rock was a piece of poo-poo too. This is poo-poo.
Jason Woods. A good investor doesn't automatically make an honest entrepreneur. And Jason Woods, creator of the first electronic-powered bodyboard, Chimera, definitely wasn't the latter. He was asking for $250,000 for 20% of his company. But while the Sharks were intrigued by his invention, they thought the position the writer was in was awkward and were worried about safety because the pitch went on. The Sharks also noticed that Woods didn't even have a business plan and had invested about $130,000 of his own money over the previous 10 years, but only managed to produce a prototype. He didn't have any customers, and Mark eventually said that he was full of crap, while Damon told him it had been the worst pitch he'd ever seen on Shark Tank. What did you think of the ranking? Let us know in the comments section below. Like and hit subscribe if you haven't already, and check out some of our recent videos.